America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Softly through the sun in a broken stone age dawn, you fly so high.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Hope you're well. This is a program named after me, myself, and I, all three of us. I hope you're well. There's a lot going on, a lot of breaking things, a lot of contextual things. And you're always here in the right place at the right time. And I want to thank you for that as well. Well, let's get right into this. It's all over the place, and I want to address it myself. We've talked about this over the months and really over the years. But the Democrat Party has really, as in so many ways, a criminal enterprise. When in power, has taken our immigration laws and rejected them. Even worse, they've taken them and they've rewritten them with invisible ink. So that up is down and down is up. Trying to find ways to import aliens, foreigners from all over the world, even if they're out of terrorist states, into our country, who they know will not assimilate. They don't even know who they are. Sending huge airlines out to bring them back to the United States in the cover of dark until they were found. Now this is, this is, it's more than satanic, which is sort of a mental state or a spiritual state. This is an entity that hates America, the Democrat Party. What do they stand for? They throw around these slogans, these shibboleths, about equality and affordability, but what do they do to the country when they're in power? And what do they try to do when they're not in power? Immigration is a big deal. It was debated at length at our founding. It's debated in every generation. It's debated by every administration. If you want amnesty, you got to get it approved by Congress. There you go. But when you're the president of the United States, it's funny how they talk about how Trump has abused the presidency. No, he hasn't. The Obama sycophants, the people who worked under the radar, behind the scenes, destroying our country, radical, hardcore radical leftists, much like Mandani. He had plenty of people like that on his staff in this massive bureaucracy, over 3,000 political appointees. Look what they've done to our country in a short period of time. And Donald Trump's not going to be president forever, and the Republicans aren't going to control every branch of government forever, and they're going to do it again, which I think will be the knife in the heart. We have things going on in this country where we have Marxist Islamists in our country who are now scheming to create communities in red states, targeting number 1, Texas, and now number 2, Florida. The way they've changed in many respects parts of New Jersey, parts of Virginia, parts of Michigan. It's taking place right under our eyes. It's taking place right now. What will the next generation say about us? What will the generation after that say? And how will they even live? Barbara Ladine is a dear friend of mine in the family. Her husband, Michael Ladine, was a great hero, a scholar, a public man in so many ways, and a dear friend, too. He wrote this: "Future historians will have to unravel the mystery of our remarkable refusal to fight back against an enemy that never hid its intention to destroy or dominate us, and impose a clerical fascism that is the antithesis of freedom." Let me repeat what Michael Ladine said. Future historians will have to unravel the mystery of our remarkable refusal to fight back against an enemy that never hid its intention to destroy or dominate us, and impose a clerical fascism that is the antithesis of freedom. What's happening is you have imams and others, organizations like CARE, strategically determining where people should be located, how to create Sharia-compliant communities, majority Islamist communities. There is absolutely no interest in assimilating into American society. It's about conquering America. Now, you know full well, those of you who have listened to this program over the decades, that I've talked about this and talked about this for years. Others say they have. They never have. They had no guts whatsoever. Now it's reached a point where we're getting close to a point of no return. If we do not succeed in the next 3 years of Donald Trump, we will not succeed in reversing this. We will not. Our laws, our judiciary, our funding of non-governmental organizations, the twisting and turning of our Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights, are where the Islamists hide, are where the Marxists hide. And they wave around our Constitution while behind our backs they spit on it. People come into our country from Somalia. They settle in a cluster in Minneapolis, most of whom are recent immigrants to this country, many of whom are illegal. They have enormous numbers of children. They do not assimilate into this country. They're here to rip us off, to steal from us. It's an entire culture in Somalia, and we're allowed to talk about it, and we must talk about it. We must have the guts to confront it. Not because these people are one skin color or another, or from one continent or another. That's the culture in that destructive country. That's what it is. And now it's here. And now people are trying to intimidate me and you to prevent us from talking about it. You must be a racist, an Islamophobe. I'm sick and tired of people in this country being called racists who literally aren't racists. I get it with the neo-fascists. They are racists. They are bigots. They are Jew haters. They are Christian haters. They are American haters who wrap themselves in the American flag. We know about them. We've talked about them, and we won't stop. But that's not my point today. You, Mr. and Mrs. America, you don't have a racist bone in your body. You are not a bigot. You are welcoming. You pay your taxes. You subsidize people. You don't even know who the hell they are. And this is what you get for it. I wrote the book, The Democrat Party Hates America. It's the longest book I ever wrote, and it could have been 10 volumes. One volume. You look throughout American history, the Democrat Party, especially about 30 years after the founding, has been nothing but a cancer on the body politic. Nothing but. From slavery to segregation to eugenics to Jim Crow, now to embracing and promoting Marxism and Islamism. Never Americanism. Never Americanism. And you're seeing the consequences. Minnesota's a Democrat state. Minneapolis is a Democrat city. This is why I was repulsed a few months back, well before the holidays, when I would hear Republicans say on our favorite network and talk radio and elsewhere, let Mondami win in New York. Then people will see what it's like and will run against them. They don't understand that when these folks get a foothold, the Islamists, the Marxists, they don't stop by honoring city boundaries or borough boundaries or state boundaries. The goal is to conquer. It's conquest. Other faiths. Over the West. Over our constitutional republic. The goal is not coexistence. How do I know? They tell us this. They write about it. Of course, I'm not talking about every Muslim. And if you're a Muslim listening to this program and you disagree with this, I'm not talking about you, am I? People who embrace Americanism, our culture, good. The more the merrier. But that's not what's happening. And at the front end, that is where that determination needs to be made. Once they're here, catch me if you can, get in front of a left-wing judge, and on and on and on. It becomes very complicated and daunting. Very complicated and daunting. I've told you over and over again, the Democrat Party believes that you must have allegiance not to the country, but to the Democrat Party. They use this as the Marxists use it. In China and all these other communist regimes, you're the general secretary of the party, first and foremost. That's where the power is. And then you control the country. You're the president of a country. You're the leader of a country because you're the general secretary of the party. And that's where the power is. The chairman of the party, the general secretary of the party, the Politburo of the party, that's where the power is. All the rest of it is window dressing. All the rest of it. Well, it's the same with the Democrat Party. People say, how is it that they stick together? How is it that they march lockstep? How is it that they say the same things? Because their mindset is not the same as your mindset or my mindset. Their mindset is not the mindset of a free people. It is the mindset of a power-hungry elite. They say the same thing. They do the same thing. They are the same thing. Because they're Democrats. Democrats first, Americans second. That's right, I said it. Democrats first, Americans second. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Who's led the fight against Qatar? Me. Who's led the fight against CARE? Me. Why do I say this? Because it's important to spread the word, and that's what I do here. I'm not afraid. The truth is the truth. What bothers me is some of my brothers and sisters in this business and in sort of other businesses related to communication. They sit there silently sucking their thumbs until things break, and then they try and run in front of the parade. You know what that is? That's self-promotion, self-aggrandizement. I'm not interested in self-promotion and self-aggrandizement. I'm interested in making the case. Making the case. Now, I want to read something to you, and I want you to think about this. Have you heard this anywhere today? Maybe you have. I doubt it. Posted by Amy Meck. Alert, Florida. Tampa was chosen. Civilization jihad is operational. A parallel Sharia system is rising in plain sight. Demand action now. In late 2025, a major escalation of a long-running separatist project in Tampa, consistent with the Muslim Brotherhood's civilization jihadist process. The Muslim Brotherhood is the mothership. And Qatar is its funder and its supporter. Got it? I don't give a damn how many sports teams they're involved with, how much money they give politicians. I don't care. Marketed as benign professional networking, Tampa is a physician-led Islamic organization designed to build a parallel Sharia government healthcare system. It openly prioritizes Muslim doctors. Are we all right, Rich? Okay. Muslim patients and Muslim-only referral networks, using healthcare as the most trusted and durable entry point for institutional control. iTAMPA, that's the name. iTAMPA launched inside Universal Academy of Florida, UAF, part of a school network run by Magda Ekadi Salik, the daughter of a senior Muslim Brotherhood leader, built to produce the next generation of Islamic institutional leadership. Now, I'll stop there, but I'm going to pick this up after the break. Mark, what does this have to do with Minnesota? Everything! Everything, everything, everything! I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We're going to go to Christy Nome now, and then we will circle back to the story I was talking about, and then we will focus more on what happened in Minnesota. Go ahead.
To start out by addressing the loss of life that we saw here in Minneapolis today. Any loss of life is a tragedy, and I think all of us can agree that in this situation it was preventable. I've spoken to the president today on the situation here on the ground. I also just got off the phone a little while ago with Governor Walz and spoke to him as well. I want to reiterate first with all of you the facts of what happened today. At 10:25 a.m. Central Time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement were carrying out lawful operations here in Minneapolis. Because of the adverse weather that Minneapolis has seen in recent snow, one of the vehicles became stuck and ensnared in the snow. Law enforcement were attempting to push out this vehicle, and when a mob of agitators that were harassing them all day began blocking them in, shouting at them, and impeding law enforcement operations. ICE officers and agents approached the vehicle of the individual in question, who was blocking the officers in with her vehicle, and she had been stalking and impeding their work all throughout the day. ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism. The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family. I encourage the American people at this point in time to pray for him, but also to pray for the deceased's family and her loved ones. Today alone in this country, there have been 4 different domestic terrorist attacks on federal officers by the ramming of vehicles. 3 of them happened here in Minneapolis. We've seen over 100 of these vehicle rammings happen in just recent weeks, and this must stop. ICE alone is facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them and an 8,000% increase in death threats against all of them. In fact, the very same officer who was attacked today had previously been dragged by an anti-ICE rioter who had rammed him with a car and drug him back in June. He sustained injuries at that time as well. And let me remind you why we're all here in this city today and why we've been here. In communities across this country and here in Minneapolis, we're just enforcing the laws that we have in this country. For years under President Biden, tens of millions of dangerous criminal illegal aliens, terrorists, and suspected terrorists were allowed to invade our country over our southern border. They were allowed to steal, to defraud, and to perpetuate violence against American citizens. Regardless of who your mayor or who your governor is, President Trump promised every single American that he would make America safe again. He promised every single American that he would work to protect them from dangerous criminals. Since Governor Walz has been in charge of Minnesota, we have seen homicides go up by over 50%. That's also during Mayor Frye's tenure as well. Since President Trump took office, Governor Walz has released over 470 violent criminals back onto the streets here in Minneapolis. He has another 680 of them still within his jurisdiction that he could give to us today to face the consequences for their crimes. Because Governor Walz and Mayor Frye refuse to protect Minnesotans, and instead they protect these criminals, that's why we are here. And we didn't just show up yesterday, we've always been here. But we're surging operations because of the dangerous situation we see in this country and because we're no longer going to allow illegal criminals to damage and harm, to kill, to sexually abuse, to proliferate drugs, and to steal American taxpayers' dollars. This state has faced unprecedented immigration fraud. It's seen unprecedented benefit fraud. Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens and those vulnerable citizens who truly needed the services from those programs. This city has burned before, and your mayor and your governor let it happen. President Trump is not going to let that happen. He and our federal law enforcement officers are here to bring peace and to bring public safety and to ensure that criminal activity is stopped and that people who perpetuate it will face consequences. Since we have been here in recent weeks, we have arrested over 1,500 criminals off of the streets. Our law enforcement has arrested murderers, known and suspected terrorists, child pedophiles, and other brutal criminals that were protected here in this city. We should all work together to protect our citizens. We should all protect the men and the women and the families who live here in Minneapolis, who live in Minnesota, and live throughout this entire country. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for focusing on the important work that our federal officers do and make sure that we're focused on the priorities of this country, and that's making sure that we're keeping people safe. With that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
That's all right. That's a real leader. I'm a big fan of hers. I don't know her well. I've met her a few times. But I think she's doing a fantastic job. I really do. Under enormously difficult circumstances when the other party is trying to sabotage you every step of the way. Every step of the way. That's what they try to do. That's what they are trying to do. And I want to talk about that in a moment, but I want to get back to what's happening in the Tampa area, like the Houston area, like the Dallas area, like Dearborn, Michigan has been conquered. Parts of New Jersey are being conquered. New York City has been conquered right in front of our eyes. We're not doing a damn thing about it. Nothing. As a people. President's trying to do everything he can. But it's not enough. We need to have all Republicans at all levels of government in Congress to prioritize this. There are enemies within, and they are winning battles. They are using our liberty, our electoral system, our constitutional protections to destroy all three. Those of you who have my book on power, it's explicitly discussed in there. Those of you who have my book, The Democrat Party Hates America, it is explicitly discussed in there. Those of you who have my book, American Marxism, it is explicitly discussed in there. Those are my last three books that I've written over the period of 6.5 to 7 years. Apparently, the teeny boppers on the internet don't read that much. When are they going to call out the Islamists? Only so-and-so's calling out the Islamists. Reading is fundamental. And the teeny boppers on the internet don't even know how to do it. They simply don't read books. They don't do it. Now let's go on with this post by Amy Meck about what's going on in Tampa, Florida. You haven't heard any of this, have you? Well, let's go on. It's called iTAMPA. It launched inside Universal Academy of Florida, UAF, part of a school network run by Magda El-Kadi Saleh, the daughter of a senior Muslim Brotherhood leader. When you hear Muslim Brotherhood, think of Qatar. Built to produce the next generation of Islamic institutional leaders. And these schools are taxpayer funded through Florida's voucher system. Public dollars, private Sharia governance. We are funding our own takeover, she writes. At the launch, organizers made their framework explicit for the first few months and moments, opening with Quranic recitation and laying out a governing structure centered on Sharia compliance. Islamism and Marxism are incompatible with Americanism. Charlie Kirk knew that. He discussed it with me. He read it in my book. It's true. He came under attack. I came to his defense. I'm always under attack. Nobody comes to my defense, and I don't give a damn. I really don't. They outlined a system overseen by an Amir and a Shura council to enforce full Sharia compliance, meaning healthcare, education, law, commerce, dawah, and political activity in Tampa, would all operate under Islamic authority, eliminating alliance on the broader U.S. system. This is not integration, it's separation by design. Speakers openly described, ready? A closed-loop medical directory, literally described as Google for Muslim providers, built to route Muslim patients only to Muslim doctors. Intentional steering away from non-Muslim providers, openly described as a religious preference. A pipeline from clinics to fully Islamic hospitals. Waqf endowments used to lock institutions in permanently, shielding them from outside pressure, donors, or accountability. It's a segregationist movement that has as its purpose the destruction of our society and every society it's in. It's a cancer, this Islamism. Just look around the world. You don't have to believe me. Look, it's there for everyone to see. The teeny boppers on the internet, you can see this too. Organized political coordination to secure legislation, quote, in our favor, unquote, and block what opposes their agenda. On camera, a board member bragged that he purged his healthcare network of non-Muslim providers wherever possible and encouraged Muslims to follow suit. The long-term vision was described openly, decades-long, generational, and permanent. And she says, hey, Texas, during a question and answer session, participants explicitly discussed replicating the epic model from Plano, Texas, a fully self-contained Islamic enclave with its own Sharia-compliant schools, businesses, residential development, medical facility, and banking. Hey, Dearborn, Michigan, I see you over there. How you doing? They dreamed of having a complete Sharia-compliant medical system culminating in a Muslim hospital just like Texas. The response from leadership was enthusiastic agreement. Tampa was not presented as an outlier. It was presented as a prototype. As a prototype. Hear me, Northern Virginia? The structure follows the Muslim Brotherhood's own You understand, folks? We're talking about the extremists, the radicals, the terrorists here who are doing these things, who are doing not the Zooty Jassers, not my assistant bank manager, not the gentleman who works at FedEx and comes to my door, wonderful guy. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the most radical elements, Islamists. Google the word Islamist. Read it. Learn what it is. This structure follows the Muslim Brotherhood's own doctrines. The 1991, quote, civilization jihadist process, which calls for building parallel Islamic institutions inside Western societies until Islam becomes a viable civilization alternative, operating apart from and ultimately beyond the host nation. This is what the Qataris are all about. Mark my words on this. I'm using every one of my platforms to point out who the Qataris are. I'm using every one of my platforms to talk about Islamism. Books, radio, TV, soon podcasting. From birth to death, education, healthcare, employment, housing, commerce, everything routed inward. Non-Muslims excluded. Dependence on American systems deliberately severed. This is Hijrah in practice. It is civilization jihad in action. Florida, this is happening inside taxpayer-funded institutions in your state. Texas, you're the model they openly cite. America, this is being built for nationwide replication. The RAIR Foundation USA, R-A-I-R, check them out, once again exposed it. Now the public must demand action. We cannot allow red state Florida to fall. We cannot allow red state Texas to fall. Well, you know, we'll just run on the Mondami plant. Oh, my God, so many stupid people on TV and radio and on the internet and podcasting. Now, I have reposted what Amy Meck, M-E-K, has disclosed on all my social platforms. And it'll be on the mothership, the MarkLevinShow.com site. I strongly encourage you to watch it. To watch it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Yes, the Democrat Party and their media play a central role in violence against ICE, which leads to things that happen today in Minnesota. The Democrat governors and mayors and others, they use inflammatory rhetoric, yelling about resistance, not to mention several physically confronting ICE. They have blood on their hands today and every damn day. They've created a militant environment against ICE agents, smearing them as stormtroopers and alike, and turning ICE agents into physical targets in one city after another. Mr. Producer, let's go to the last clip and play that, if you would. Go ahead.
This is Gestapo-like
These are Democrats.
behavior. Plainclothes officers wearing masks are terrorizing immigrants.
The ICE issue is alarming beyond words. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. We're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here. Wake up.
Dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany, especially in the earliest days of Nazi Germany, are the dangers that we need to react to now. They're taking people off the streets and sending them away. It's a 5-alarm fire, everyone.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is not the 1930s, and every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye. Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared. We need to make sure that there's a firewall that they have to come through before they get to them.
This is all rhetoric, gaslighting, violence, and resistance in the whole thing. I want to pick up on this when we return next hour. Don't go anywhere, folks. Lots more. I want to keep at this. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Credit to my wife, Julie, who found out all that Tampa, Florida stuff for me. And, but I want to get back to what I posted and what I believe about the Democrat Party hating America. It's always hated America. We have elements now who used to be attached to the Republican Party who hate America, the Catarlsons, the Kellys, the Bannons, their ilk. They're distracting us, and yet, because they're doing what they're doing, they have to be confronted, which I've been doing now for 10 months. It's a lot swirling around. I must be one of the most hated people in America, by the Marxist Islamists and by the neo-fascist woke right. But by you, we have a love fest, don't we? We're one big family. And that's a good thing. Let me get back to this. The Democrat governors and mayors, among others, been using inflammatory rhetoric and yelling about resistance, not to mention several physically actually confronting ICE agents. They have blood on their hands today. They run these cities. They run these states. They've created a militant environment, a militant army, one place to the next, against ICE agents, against America. They smear these agents as stormtroopers and the like. You just heard it before the break. They're turning ICE agents into physical targets in one city after another. It's intentional. The Minneapolis mayor is a thug, literally trying to inflame the situation. And there'll be a long line of his type. Schumer already, Omar, of course, the Stalinists, Sanders, and the rest of them. They all fall in line for the reasons I explained in hour one and have explained over the course of 25 years. Now, obviously, we don't have all the facts. We see the videos, though, don't we? We see the videos. We do know that you don't drive a vehicle at law enforcement, literally within inches of at least one ICE official, in a sudden burst when they're approaching the vehicle and talking to its driver. We now have more context from Secretary Noem, which is always important to have, that this individual had been there most of the day, harassing the agents, and she was blocking them with her vehicle. Furthermore, there's no ignoring or denying the fuse the Democrat Party and its surrogates, including and especially in the media, as well as numerous left-wing organizations like CARE, have lit. There's been a campaign of organized and systematic violence against ICE in city after city. The Democrat Party officials, almost always and universally, use the most provocative slogans to attack them. They're in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're in bed with the Marxists. They are the Muslim Brotherhood and the Marxists. That's what they've become. That's what they are. Now they want to turn this into a George Floyd situation because the people who want to do that hate America. They want it to burn. They want to steal your property. They want to steal your liberty. They want to destroy your faith. They want to destroy your country. That's who they are. That's who Bernie Sanders is. That's who AOC is. That's who Mandami is. And not just them. That whole damn enterprise, the Democrat Party. What they've done to this country, the lack of immigration enforcement, first the open border, and now the resistance to deporting illegal. Look, you're here illegal, you're deported. That's what the law says. You're here illegally, you're deported. That's it. I don't care if they find you in a Home Depot or wherever you are. Where the hell else are you going to find people? They're in Home Depots, they're in church, they're at home, they're in hospitals, they're in 7-Elevens. Where else are you going to find them except where people go? The psychology of too many people in this country has been altered. It has been changed through decades of this brainwashing. Decades. You remember, folks, those of you who've been with the program for a while, we have fought all these efforts to grant amnesty and open the borders. We, here on this program. Before I became nationally syndicated, these platforms were not used for activism. And yet, I'm an activist. I didn't come up through broadcasting ranks, through journalism ranks, through any ranks. I'm an activist. Before I was a lawyer, when I was a lawyer, and now. That's what I am. I broadcast, obviously. But what do we talk about here? What do my books talk about here? There's a purpose to what we do here. A purpose. We're going to have Salena Zito on the program in a few minutes. She has this fabulous book, Butler, but that's not the point of her appearance. Some of what she said in Butler and what she has said before Butler and since Butler is the point of her appearance. I've been touching on this with you now for a long time, over the course of about 10 months, but especially since I've come back, that what takes place online, that what takes place on Twitter, that's X, and these other social media sites, are not reflective of the vast majority of the American people, and they're not. They absolutely are not. And you've been sucked into believing that they are. You've been sucked into believing that they're influencers. They call themselves influencers. These unknown comics who hate America, hate Jews, hate Christians, who are they influencing? Katarlson. Katarlson is the most mentally unhinged buffoon in the public eye. And he's unraveling before us. It's like he's having a nervous breakdown, a midlife crisis. Look at Kelly. She's had more positions than, well, I better not say it. The other day, she was very angry with me. I'm not going to take this from him. When I was at Fox with him, they used to laugh at him. You know what we figured out, Mr. Producer? She was never at Fox with me. She had left Fox when I came to Fox. Psycho. Then you have this guy, Alex Jones. He's not just financially bankrupt. He's mentally bankrupt. He's a fraud and a phony and a freak. He's going after Candace Owens. Tell you, it's a whole freak show. Candace Owens is a bigot and a nut job. Now, you remember her when she wasn't. You remember Katarlson when he wasn't. You remember Bannon when he would talk about being a Christian Zionist. These are all very thuggish, moronic people who've determined that the way to riches is to abuse you and your children and your grandchildren who might be on the internet or might be listening to podcasts. The president ignores them completely and utterly. Unfortunately, others do not. Some who even want to be president. They will learn, they will all learn, that they shouldn't be following reprobates. It's not the way to become a statesman and a great leader. It's also not what we should be doing. And that's why I've decided, on top of everything else I'm doing, we will launch our own podcast. We'll start 3 days a week, Monday through Wednesday. We'll start it at a half hour. We may well expand it. We'll see how it goes. And we're going to push back against this. Because I believe the American people are smart. I believe the American people are empathetic. I believe the American people care that you're an American and nothing else. I believe the American people are deeply worried about the Marxist Islamists as well as these neo-fascists. Every poll, the Reagan Institute survey, the greatest of the great, indicates that 85, 90, 95% of the American people stand with you and me because we are the American people. This is the great platform of talk radio. There's nothing like it. Not podcasting, not television, nothing. Nothing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company, that cares about giving back to those who serve. If you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. You know, folks, I've actually known Salena Zito a very long time. Salena, how long have I known you?
25 years.
25 years when you used to write for
the Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
That's right. And she's just down-to-earth, fantastic reporter who does what reporters used to do. It's called reporting. And Salena has spent a lot of time, actually most of her career, reporting on what people are thinking. In Pennsylvania, in parts of Pennsylvania, parts of it are rural and suburban, parts of it are urban. But you have people who talk about what the American people think, who never leave the 28th floor of the skyscraper in some city where they live and where they work, and they all talk to each other. Salena doesn't do that. So, Salena Zito, you wrote in your book, Butler, a fabulous book, but you've been talking about it for a while now, that real America is not online. Real America does not spend their days and nights and weekends on the internet writing to each other and posting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, case in point, I'm so glad you framed it that way, because tonight, 15 minutes ago, I just came from my little granddaughter's basketball game. She's in 4th grade. And there's about 500 families in there, right? Tons of parents, grandparents, you know, watching kids in you know, there's about 7 different games going on at the same time. It's a large complex. I didn't see anybody on their phone. I saw everyone engaged with each other, and paying attention to the game and talking about their neighborhoods, right? They don't spend their time on social media. They don't, their life isn't defined by social media. They don't doom scroll on social media. They care about things like, you know, being able to pay for their kids to be on a travel team, or, you know, when is the next community meeting, or what's being built down the street, or, you know, just like common everyday things. And they don't pay attention to soap opera and drama. And trust me, I'm on social media. That happens on social media. And I have been writing about this for years. It's really detailed in Butler. But one of the big problems with the left, but also with my profession, was the belief that what it was happening on Twitter, opinions that were happening and circulated and highlighted and exploited, was what was really happening in the minds of the people that actually decide elections. And I kept saying, you guys are off. It's not like this.
And they're off now, because these people,
oh my gosh, yes,
you and I are familiar, the things that they say about Christianity and Judaism, about our country, about our history in World War II and the Greatest Generation. They're trashing the country like the Islamists and the Marxists. That is not reflective of America. You know, I get people on this program who say 87% of MAGA supports Israel. 89% of MAGA supports hitting the Iranian nuclear sites. 88% of MAGA supports what the president did in Venezuela, which is completely the opposite of what these self-anointed influence, quote-unquote, say, no?
Oh, yeah. But can I just say that the word influencer is so insulting?
Where did that come from?
I mean,
they call themselves influencers.
I don't know. But when I grew up, influencing, people that influenced were people that I looked up to, like really good teachers or community leaders, or people that like spent their weekends and weeknights coaching my basketball team when they could be out doing something like that. Like, those are the people that influenced me, not someone that has that's on social media or has a podcast or has a microphone. Like, that's just not how we're built in this country. And there's a real there's sort of this culture of believing among the people with the microphone that deem themselves as knowing everything and being influencers, that thinking within their bubble that they are right. And I'm here to tell you, y'all need to get outside. You need to, what's the phrase? Touch grass.
Get off your ass.
As I spend time, because as I spend time with people, let's just think about the last 3 stories I did at the Washington Post. I went bear hunting. I was down in a coal mine with Dave McCormick. I was out in a steel mill, right? In all of them in Pennsylvania, and all of these people decide elections. And the last thing they're doing is hanging with bated breath of what an influencer says you should be thinking.
You know, if you're an influencer, Salena Zito, you don't need to call yourself an influencer, do you?
I know.
I mean, Rush Limbaugh was an influencer. Did he go around saying, I'm an influencer?
No, that would have been way. I mean, Rush would do the, he would do the pretend, bombastic thing. But honestly, yes, absolutely, he would never proclaim that that's who he was. He was a very humble person, and if you didn't pick that up by listening to him, then you weren't listening at all.
He was very humble, and he was very shy.
Yes.
He didn't like to go
incredibly so.
Yeah, to big events if he could avoid it, and so forth and so on. And he always told me, Salena Zito, always respect your audience, because in the end, they will have your back. Defend, treat them with respect. They are intelligent. And I think too many, not all, but too many of these podcasters, they view their audience as something to pay their bills, to get hysterical. They don't, in other words, I don't think they understand Americans, which is why like half of their audience is from overseas.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. I mean, let's think about radio. To me, radio in particular, just like, driving in your car, like on a back road, listening to radio, listening to you. Like, that's how the first time I got, I first listened to you. Like, someone who is a good storyteller, who is thoughtful and challenges their own thoughts, right? And more importantly, listens to what people are telling them, is someone that I think that has more of an impact on our social fabric because they are part of our social fabric.
All right, don't go. We're going to take a hard break. We can never get enough of Salena Zito, that's for sure. You hang on there. She's fantastic. There's a whole fake industry out there, ladies and gentlemen, that's an inch thick. We'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
But then, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with our friend Salena Zito. Salena, I notice a lot of what goes on. Obviously, again, these are observations, and there are exceptions. You have individuals who think that the way to attract an audience is to drop the F-bomb and other curse words constantly, to smoke pot. And I'm thinking to myself, this is really harming our young people, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, people, you always want to be an example, right? What do you want to project when you're talking about, policies, but also principles? So I know I understand the need or the thrust towards being edgy. However, it's sort of like when my grandmother told me one time, you can shout and you can be really loud, but you're going to get more attention if you're quiet and you speak you speak more deliberately. People will hear you more, and I think that sort of serves as how you reach people in this new era of talk radio, podcasting. It's just really, I think it's important. Now, maybe it's because I'm old, Mark.
Oh, but, you should hear. I'm accused of that.
I am old. I'm definitely old. But
I don't think you're older than me.
I'm around young people. I'm around young people all the time. I've got a daughter in her 30s, a son in their 30s. They don't like that either. They think of that as something as trying to get attention. And you know what this reminds me of? Do you remember in the early days of the Tea Party, 2009, February, right? It was a movement that just wasn't Republicans. It was very ground up. It was Republicans and Democrats, independents, who had just had enough with being lied to and misled, right? And they formed this sort of grassroots movement. And it was really an incredible thing for me as a journalist to cover. It was really amazing. But it didn't take all that long. Within a year and a half, there were people making money off it, but exploiting it and taking it to a level that was far removed from the original intent. And trying to drive the direction of the Tea Party to benefit them, as opposed to listening to why people wanted to be part of it in the beginning.
You know, it's my theory, and you're actually a really good person to ask this to, that the old Tea Party is MAGA in many respects.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. The coalition that formed around the Tea Party, which were suburban Republicans, sort of your old-fashioned rotary Republicans, right? And then the people that lived in the suburbs of Philly and in the suburbs in Wisconsin and Michigan and Sterling Heights and places like that. But it was also New Deal Democrats who Obama kicked out of the party for the party of the ascendant. And it was also independent voters, people who really didn't have an allegiance to either party, but was looking for someone who would listen to what was impacting their community. And that is very much reflective of what the MAGA coalition is. And it's really sort of detailed in my book. And it's also people of faith. And people tend to think that's white Catholics, but it's not. It is a lot of different religions, and it's a lot of different races.
And you say that as a white Catholic.
As an Italian Catholic.
Yes, right.
And that's even like more, that's like extra Catholic, right? and you know,
I grew up around Italian Catholics, Irish Catholics, Jews, the whole bunch. Yeah.
Yes. So do I. So did I. And I watched this with Black Baptists, Black Protestants, Jewish population, Hispanic Catholics. Right? This freedom of religion had a strong value to them. And that's what they liked about President Trump, because they knew he was, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but they knew he was just mean enough to stand up to the to those who wanted to oppress freedom of religion.
What do you make of all this anti-Semitism coming online from certain podcasters and their associations with foreign governments and all this stuff? I mean, I view this as so anti-American, so repulsive.
It's very repulsive, and I'm here to tell you, and this is very important. I don't see this in real time with real people, and they are saying the exact same thing to me. What the heck is going on? Where do people get this idea, first of all, to be anti-Semitic, and second of all, to think they speak for everyone else, because they don't.
No, they don't.
Let's just focus on Pennsylvania for just 1 second. One of the largest amount of people that served in World War II. Right? The people in Pennsylvania are the descendants of these men that served. Those were their grandfathers and their fathers and their uncles. They came back and they told stories. And they reminded us, because I grew up with that, and even my kids did, because my uncles were around long enough to help form their character. They grew up warning about what happens and to never let it happen again. And so you live your life, right? And then you go online and you see that, and there's a detachment from that, because that is not the reality that I see with voters at all. Young, old, and, whatever. I mean, I keep a large database of voters that I have covered for the past 20 years, and I check in with them all the time on hot button issues. I would say 89% of the time have these voters who are consistent voters will tell me, I didn't even know people said stuff like that. Where is
Here's
that
the
coming
thing.
from?
I think, for obvious reasons, the horrendous assassination of Charlie Kirk, but I think there's an overly an extensive focus on college students, which is fine. But they don't even make up the majority of young people. I mean, college graduates represent about 34% of the young population. And so there's this constant, intense focus on Turning Point, on all this stuff, which is fine. But even that's not reflective of all the young people. I mean, the whole volunteer military is made up of young people who've decided to sign up and so forth and so on. Right. So again, I think there's this... There's sort of this odd emphasis that drives us in a certain direction, or at least attempts to drive us in a certain direction, that's not reflective of young people.
No, it's not reflective of young people. And I covered young people a lot, but I categorize young people like 37 and younger, right? People that, yes, there's college age and there's post-college age, but there's also young families, right? And young parents. And what I have covered several revivals with young people, but I have also, and this story will come out in about 2 weeks, have been going around to different parishes, Catholic parishes, and seeing this surge of families with children. So we're talking people between like 30 and 37. And just flooding Catholic churches all across Pennsylvania. And so we need to pay attention to those people as well, because they're telling us something. They're telling us something very, very important. And one of the sort of pillars of the Catholic Church is, and I grew up with this, was that we were always taught that it was our obligation as Catholics to protect the Jewish people and to protect Israel. And that has not strayed.
I think most of the people who go to church and so forth don't spend all day on the internet, do they?
Not at all. The number is, I think it's 13% of the people in this country have a Twitter account. Of that 13%, I think only 30% of them use the Twitter account. So we're talking, I don't know, a couple million people. Like, some people have never even used it. They got one, and maybe they like tweeted, "Hello, anybody here?" And that's basically it. So the demographics of what is on social media is very narrow, and no one should ever believe that is how the American people feel. I mean, nothing proves that more than what happened in 2016 and what happened in 2024.
And again, many of these numbers, are buffered by an enormous input of foreign eyes, and including from countries that are very hostile to us. And I think more and more, there are some very good podcasters, but there's some mostly lousy, in my view, in the political world, and a lot of them rely on those foreign eyes more than they do on Americans.
Right, and I think people are becoming more educated about that and understanding that, and being more, thoughtful about what they're listening to, because people are smarter than these influencers think. Right? They think that they can just pull them around by, the nose and get them to think and believe whatever they think and believe. The internet has been good and bad for 1,000 different reasons, but it has made us much more independent and skeptical and smart about what we choose to consume. Because forever and a day, we were only given certain choices to consume something. Now we can make up our mind what we want to consume.
So well said. Well, you're fantastic. You've always been. You're a sweetheart, and we really appreciate you, Salena Zito, and thank you, and God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark Levin. God bless you as well.
You take care of yourself. She's really terrific. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data, just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. From President Trump. He posted, after long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I have determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. Now, that's a leader. That's a leader. And I guarantee you, Tarleton is wetting his depends right now. This will allow us to build the dream military that we've long been entitled to, and more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure, regardless of our foes. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by tariffs from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the United States at levels never seen before, I would say $1 trillion is the number. But now, 1.5. We're able to easily hit 1.5 trillion. This man is a super patriot. He's super patriot. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Hey, listen to this idiot, Chuck Schumer. Just listen to this buffoon. He's the leader of the Democrats. Cut 6, go.
Well, I've never been for ICE going into our cities, period. It doesn't belong there.
But where's ICE supposed to go? He's never been in favor of ICE going into the cities to find illegal aliens and remove them? Listen to this. They're confessing. This is their new base. Marxists and Islamists and illegal aliens. If you're a Democrat out there listening to me and you feel like you're relatively conservative or moderate, a Fetterman-type Democrat, get out of that party. Get out of that party as fast as you can and bring your family with you. We Republicans may not be perfect, but we're not utterly imperfect like the Democrat Party. We love our country. They don't. These are the leaders of the Democrat Party. Start from the top, please. Cut 6, go.
Well, I've never been for ICE going into our cities, period. It doesn't belong there. And the mayors and...
Well, where's ICE supposed to go? I mean, seriously, folks? Go ahead.
County executives and others throughout the country believe they can handle it much better than...
Excuse me, lame brain. Immigration is a national issue. It's in the federal Constitution. It can handle what better? They all have their hands out begging for money from the federal government, from you and me. They think they can handle it better. How are they handling it? Not at all. So here's a true federal function. Now, Democrats like Schumer, radical kooks, they believe the federal government should do everything, except what it's actually supposed to do. Secure the border, right? National security, stuff like that. Then they want to leave it up to localities. Does that make sense to you? Of course not. Go ahead.
Having people from the outside come in.
They're not from the outside. These are American citizens who've created a career. They've joined ICE. This guy's been in the federal government his entire life, except the short period of time he was in the New York Assembly. They didn't come from the outside. The illegal aliens came from the outside. They're enforcing federal law that this jerk is supposed to be supporting because he's a federal senator. Go ahead.
Protesters down there, should they remain civil?
Well, of course, there should never be violence, but there should be protest is an American right, and when things like this happen, people feel the need to protest and their right to do it.
You got paid protesters, you got the commies paying for them, the Qataris paying for them, you got billionaires paying for them, billionaires over. None of this crap is spontaneous. None of it. Well, it's their right to protest. They're paid to protest. They show up with the same signs. They see the same people. They see the same agitators. Unbelievable. Then we have a guy named Jelani Hussein, the executive director of CARE in Minnesota. Oh, I bet this is a good person. Listen to this. Go.
Sadly, a family is going to wake up to the news. I would just say that this young woman is a hero. She's someone who's...
So the young woman, who they don't know, by the way, who was in a car that almost killed a police officer, who'd been there all day trying to block ICE, she's a hero, according to the Council for American Islamic Relations, a Hamas-founded front group. How does that even exist in the United States of America? Can somebody explain that to me? These groups that have ties to terrorist organizations or even foreign countries. That they really don't even have American citizens except newly minted American citizens, if you get my drift, should be eliminated. Out, CARE, out. Go ahead.
To defend her neighbors, and then to lose her life. She's a patriot, a true patriot, and the type of people we need in this.
What a patriot of what? You jackass. Ooh, that's right. That's right. So this guy's encouraging violence against ICE. Lawlessness. And he's the executive director of CARE in Minnesota. That's okay with everybody? Is that okay with everybody? He's not done. Cut 8. Go.
And I believe in this moment, God has chosen us to carry the burden of this nation's fight against President Trump's authoritarianism. And guess what? If God sees something good in us, that goodness is going to be used to shine a light of positivity. And so we're going to come together.
Shut up, you mumbling buffoon. God is on their side. God is telling them to do these things. No. Islam is. Or your interpretation of it is. Any sense that this guy wants to assimilate into our society? We have now organizations, permanent organizations, who get a tax-exempt status in our country. The enemy within, like CARE, like Students for Justice in Palestine, like a whole host of alphabet soup NGOs. Tax-free. Billionaires funding them. Imams overseas funding them. Monarchies, Arab monarchies funding them. The communist Chinese funding them. Destroying our country. This guy dares to talk about patriotism, dares to talk about Donald Trump this way. It's shocking. Shocking. Go ahead.
Now we're going to win in this moment, and history will remind the nation and for generations yet to come that there were great people in this great city of Minneapolis who stood up against authoritarianism.
There's no authoritarianism, pal. It's called the rule of law. Authoritarianism. The group he works for has ties to Hamas. He's talking about authoritarianism. See, they westernize the propaganda. They westernize the clothing. They westernize the arguments. They pose themselves as victims, as civil libertarians, when they're the complete opposite. The complete opposite. It's really grotesque. But that's what this ideology is. Absolutely grotesque. Brad Todd is a CNN political commentator. Anybody heard of him? I've never heard of him. Have you heard of him, Mr. Producer? It's like the unknown comic on the internet who always is on Joe Rogan's program. Yeah. Why is he always on Rogan's program? Well, the guy's a Jew hater. So somebody needs to ask Joe Rogan. I'm quite serious. I'm a big UFC fan. I was a UFC fan before Rogan was even being one of the announcers. Certainly an MMA fan for 25 years. Excuse me. I'm not allowed to talk about Rogan? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But he has these people on, these sickening, Jew-hating, American-hating bastards. Their only pedigree is... They have no pedigree, actually. They're not experts, and we don't need to be experts. But you do need to have a few brain cells to rub together. That's not an expert. That's a normal human being. But they're the experts, you see. They read their experts, who are propagandists, and they burp up what the propagandists say, and they claim them to be experts. But we don't want experts. I'm not an expert guy, okay? In so many respects, I'm self-taught, despite going through college and law school and all the rest. Most of what I care about is self-taught. What do these guys know? It's not a matter of being an expert. They don't know crap. They don't read crap. Maybe they read 2 books from a conspiracy nut, and then that's what they believe. That's it. Oh, we want to debate you. They want to debate whether we Jews have a right to exist. They want to debate whether 6 million were killed. They want to debate if the Israelis are committing genocide. They don't want to debate. They want attention. That's what they want. You know what it is? It's what I said the other day. It's podcasting pornography. That's what it is. That's what it is. Here's Brad Todd, the CNN political commentator. Another unknown. Cut 14, go.
I mean, the president seems to own this totally.
You're seeing a lot of what I'm going to somewhat derisively call new right commentators not know which way to go right now. And, you know, on the one hand, this was the most strikingly successful American military operation in any of our memories. And I'll flash back comparing this one to what happened with Joe Biden's exit from Kabul. It's just night and day
This
different.
guy obviously is a listener, isn't he, Mr. Producer? Come on, Brad. You can tell the truth. You can do this, Brad. They're not new right. They're woke Reich. R-E-I-C-H. They may not know what to do, and in the end they actually do. That is to undermine our country and the commander-in-chief. Those of us who are constitutional conservatives, who are traditional conservatives, we know exactly where we stand. Exactly where we stand. Go ahead.
Of his slide,
and his numbers never recovered from it. His numbers never recovered from it. Now, the President Trump's goal is to try to make this be the springboard to his numbers recovering in a similar way.
No, the president isn't trying to make this be a springboard to his numbers recovering. He's not running for president again. Who's this idiot? Anyway, go ahead.
Have to enunciate a plan for what success looks like next and how we get out. And to Lulu's point, you know, there are a finite number of people in any country.
Somebody's named Lulu, Mr. Producer? Is Lulu a commentator too? Lulu. It's like Sonny on The View. Sonny, who is depressing. Now we have Lulu. Lulu, Sonny. Go ahead.
If you don't pay them to be soldiers, someone else will pay them to be soldiers. And so I think
all right, thanks for nothing. We're all dumber listening to you. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
What'd you say, Rich? So here's a piece. Where is this? That somebody just sent me. I will share it with my beloved audience. This is from The Guardian. Now, The Guardian is trash. Everybody knows that. Even the people at The Guardian know it's trash. But nonetheless, they did an analysis. They called an analyst by Jeremy Barr in Washington. MAGA media stars back Trump on Venezuela mostly. Doesn't make any sense. Now, that's an interesting, illiterate title, but let's go on. Quote, not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars, Donald Trump said after declaring victory on November 6, 2024. Wasn't his first pledge to disengage the U.S. from foreign policy conflicts, and Trump's top allies in conservative media and the Make America Great movement have all rallied to his pledge to put America first. Isn't it amazing they never mention where his main doctrine is peace through strength? Isn't that amazing? Now that the U.S. president, cholera, seems to have broken his pledge by launching an invasion of Venezuela. So this is how The Guardian approaches this. Not a magnificent military act on behalf of liberty. Not to mention threatening future actions against Cuba and Colombia and potentially Greenland. Some have reasonably wondered whether Trump supporters and MAGA media would hammer him for that inconsistency. But in the days since the U.S. forcibly abducted Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, who I guess The Guardian loved, and his lovely wife, with dozens killed as part of the nighttime operation, mostly Cubanos, by the way, communists, Trump has instead received strong support from the media allies, with a few on-again and off-again backers expressing some reservations. Generally, the party's going to stand with him on this, and conservative media is going to stand with him on this. Former Republican congressman and talk radio host Joe Walsh said. Joe Walsh is a nobody. Joe Walsh is, he's out, with the Dems. He's a Democrat. He's a clown, may I say, with all due respect. They go on. The conservative radio and television host Mark Levin, one of Trump's strongest media defenders, not only celebrated Trump's military actions, but on Sunday called those who questioned the legality of the incursion, including Bernie Sanders and New York City Mayor Zohar Hamdani, pure evil. They defend totalitarian regimes against our nation's own security and interests, he added. Levin and Fox News host Sean Hannity have also championed the Don Roe doctrine, the notion that Trump's America has dominance over the Western Hemisphere, and it goes on. Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro called out those on the so-called isolationist right, meaning Tucker Carlson, said Maduro was ousted by a conservative Republican president, a gutsy president. That's correct. Even Carlson expressed cautious optimism. Carlson is the one who doesn't know what the hell to do, you see. The ones who embrace the isolationism in our enemies. I mean, this fool was praising. We played some of it, didn't we, yesterday, Mr. Producer? Was praising Maduro. He's very Christian, you know, and he's outlawed, you know, what did he say? Gays or being gay or whatever it was. And then he didn't insinuate. He said that one of the reasons that we did what we did was because of his position on gay rights. This guy is sick. Can we at least agree on that? The demons have never left. Can we agree on that? But nonetheless, I want the Guardian to know, not that they care. We constitutional conservatives have never changed our position. And we always knew that Trump was the man. You know, the president once said to me, I should share this because I get this all the time from the Tweedledee and Tweedledum on the internet, which is, you supported Ted Cruz in the 2016 primary, not Donald Trump. It's a funny thing about primaries. You kind of support who you want, and then there's a nominee, and then you support the nominee. President once said to me, jokingly, and the guy is a lot of fun, and he does kibitz a lot. He said, I remember. Early on in the primaries, you supported Ted over me. I remember that. And I said, you want to know why? He said, why? I didn't know a damn thing about you. I didn't know who you are. I've known Ted for years, and he's a rock-solid, principled constitutionalist. Still is. But he also said, and I remember when I got the nomination, nobody was a bigger supporter than you. I said, that's correct. That's correct. So people go, you said you were a never Trumper. Now, it doesn't matter. They'll keep saying that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to the president. That was a one-day event involving Roger Stone, who I've come to kind of like. I don't know him. Doesn't mean he and I agree on everything, but we don't have to. Anybody who's been subjected to what he was subjected to and held his head high and was horribly abused is somebody I respect, okay? That's the way it goes. All right, I'll be right back.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
Yellow. Let's take some calls, shall we? Yes, we can. Let's go to Greg, San Antonio, Texas, on the Mark Levin app. Greg, how are you?
Yes, sir, Mark. Good to talk to you. I just wanted to say, you were talking about Chuck Schumer. In 2018, he was a Senate minority leader. He said that he shot, the Washington Times reported that he shot down suggestions to abolish ICE, said that the top government deportation agency does things that are very much needed. How do you like that?
Oh, really? Good for you. You dug that up?
Yes, sir. The second point, if I could.
You're smarter than the average senator. That's a big deal. Go right ahead.
I'm sorry. The poisonous social media, it causes many to have like a distorted view of reality, right? For instance, me, I only get my news from the Levin podcast or like the Vince Colonnese, podcast from Bongino. So, I mean, I don't get all distorted from that trash that's on the media like you talk about all the time. And your idea to move on to different areas and catch different parts, of media and get the story out of what conservatism is.
Do you like that or no?
I do. I love it. So
I'm going to take American history and philosophy, knowledge about who we are, where we came from, into the home of the beasts, into the home of the cesspool. And what I'm going to try to do is not be the biggest guy in the block. That's not going to happen. What I'm going to try and do is effectuate some kind of positive change in support of America, in support of capitalism, in support of the Judeo-Christian belief system. And I just want to remind people who want to be president, it's the Judeo-Christian belief system. That's what it is. You can say it. It's okay. Thank you for your call. You're terrific, Greg. San Antonio, Texas, where my pastor, the great John Hagee, is. My pastor, one of my best friends, as a matter of fact. Just the greatest guy, really. Let us go to Kevin, West Orange, New Jersey, the great WABC. Kevin, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. Long-time listener. This is first-time caller. Probably about 20 years now, since before Obama became president.
Thank you. Yes. Apparently that's a bad thing now, according to the internet, that I've been doing this for a while. If I just fell out of the crib and banged my head, then I would be a superstar. You understand that?
I understand, but first, before I get into what my actual question, I love what you're doing with the history of America, and what you said earlier about when you first started about the person who funded George Washington was very interesting. Never heard it before anywhere.
Chaim Solomon. He funded the Yorktown battle, and Washington contacted James Madison. Just for the rest of the audience, they didn't have enough money. Many of the recruits weren't paid. They didn't have enough ammo. And the French Navy was sitting there and said, "You have 3 weeks or we have to leave because we can't afford this either." And it's in the archives. And he writes Madison, he says, "Get a hold of Chaim Solomon. Tell him we need help." And Chaim Solomon took $20,000 of his own money at that time, which was very significant, and he gave it to to George Washington and the troops, and the battle was fought. When the Revolutionary War was over, he died a young man. He was in his mid-50s, I believe, dead broke. Our government didn't pay him back, was unable to. And he also, as I said, lent money to some of the great men like Madison and others who were hurting because they were all focused on the war effort. And back then, you didn't have stocks and bonds and all the rest of it. You either earned it that day or you didn't have it. And because he wasn't paid back, because he did spend so much, he was one of the great financiers of the Revolutionary War, he died a pauper. And it is amazing to me that this man isn't taught about, because he's widely known during the Revolutionary period and was widely known 50 years thereafter. But anyway, that for another day. Go ahead. I stepped on your toes.
The reason why I actually called was, I totally support ICE and their efforts, and I understand what you were saying about how, and I also read about how she was an agitator trying to block them and everything else. But it's just unfortunate that she.
It's sad
that she was killed.
It's sad, but here's the thing. I think you also heard me say that I blame the Democrat Party and these Democrat leaders, even tonight, who are gaslighting this situation, who are promoting it. And, they're unaffected by it, but they're people in the streets, and they hear this stuff, and they hear that ICE is the Gestapo, that ICE needs to be held to account, that every individual, every one of them needs to be named and known who's wearing a mask. And you have the governor of Minnesota saying people are being disappeared. That's what murderous genocidal regimes do. People aren't being disappeared. They're being deported, which is the way it used to work for the vast majority of our history. And so these Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They knew what they were doing during the George Floyd riots, during the BLM riots. They know exactly what they're doing. They're very violent. They're extremely radical. And that's why you can have a Marxist Islamist like Mondami win the primary of the Democrat Party. Couldn't win it in the Republican Party, wins it in the Democrat Party. Here's the other thing. There's people like me, and now many more, thank goodness, who are standing up to the poison in our own party. To the Carlsons, to the Kellys, to the Bannons, to the rest of them, to the Owens. We're standing up to them, speaking out against them. I started this some months ago, about 10 months ago. There wasn't another nationally syndicated radio host doing this. And that's okay. And the point is to rally the nation, to rally people who are in this business, to rally them to a good point. And I think that's where we are right now. We are rallied. We are at a good point. The president is completely ignoring these buffoons, completely. And they will be ignored more because they're getting nuttier and nuttier. They're crackpots. They're crackpots. Thanks for your great call. We're getting great calls tonight. We get great calls most nights. William, Salt Lake City, Utah. XM Satellite, go.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my call, and I want to thank your Mr. Producer for helping me when I'm a little nervous tonight.
Don't be nervous. He's a good man.
Okay. I throw myself at your feet, oh great one. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
I wanted to point out, why don't we just let Mandani drop back and take New York and show the rest of the country what Antifa or Hamas is going to do to the rest of the country?
Because it doesn't work that way. They're using New York, which is a massive city with massive wealth, as a launching point for the rest of the country. You have to look at these political battles as military battles without the ammunition and the weaponry. They just took our biggest city. We don't sit back and say, let's use that as an example. We need to confront this. We need to defeat them. They want to crush us. We need to crush them, politically, of course. And the point is, if we're afraid to expose them, if we're afraid to talk about Islamism and Marxism, let me tell you something. When I wrote the book American Marxism, which was a massive bestseller for like 10 weeks and went on for months, I couldn't even get my colleagues in this business or on cable TV to use the word Marxism. They kept calling them progressives and progressives. And weekend after weekend after weekend, I would say, they're not progressives. That's the name they give themselves. They are Marxists. They are communists. They're not socialists. They're Marxists. They're communists. Now, everybody's calling them that. That's important. Islamists, I said. Call them Islamists. Call them what they are. They're Islamists. It has a meaning. Use the nomenclature. Now everybody's calling them Islamists. Catarlson, call them out. Call these neo-fascists out. They're bullies. They're not going to hurt you. You're going to hurt them. They're going to start to lose their audience. Now that's the way it's happening. And that should happen, and it should work. And we've got to deal with all these fronts at the same time. I am so blessed to have this microphone. And I'm so blessed to have people like you, brother.
I'm picturing New York City burning to the ground someday.
That happens. Soon. It's too late. It's too late if that happens. Because the question is, how are they able to take the biggest city in the most powerful country, the freest country on the face of the earth, and burn it to the ground? I view things a little differently, which is, don't give them a damn inch. Dearborn, Michigan, Plano, Texas, Houston, Texas, Tampa, Florida, wherever it is, there needs to be pushback, and we better figure this out. And it's very complicated and daunting because our system, our Constitution, embraces the notion of participatory government, of individual liberty, of free speech and freedom of association and due process. And this evil has learned to take those things to advance their ideology. and to use our protections to protect them. And they also have the benefit of very radical Democrat judges who assist them with their abuse and pretzel making of our constitutional republic and the Bill of Rights. Don't be afraid to call again, William. It was an excellent call. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right, I'm going to go blind here. I don't know what they want to ask, but we'll take a few callers like this. I'd like to do this from... Oh, we have a new list. Boy, the callers just keep calling in. Let me see if I can find our new list here. Hold on. Click, and click again. There it is. Tabitha, York, Nebraska, XM satellite, go. Yellow.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
I'm just driving home, and this is my first time calling in. Thanks for taking my call so late.
Thank you.
I do want to briefly comment. Thank you. I really want to briefly comment on, the whole thing today with the lady getting killed. I mean, what was I supposed to do? But I did want to say one thing that's kind of a little off topic since we've been talking about this all day. First of all, I'm just glad that we are witnessing the greatest president of my lifetime. I'm grateful for that because the next 3 years are just going to be flipping amazing. But what I wanted to
Hold on
say
now.
was...
We're gonna organize, you and me and the rest of the country who listen to this program, over these midterm elections, because I fear that if they win, and the president said if they win, they're going to impeach me. We've got to fight these people. So we're going to do that very, very strongly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like this is a chess game that we're playing with this whole Venezuela thing, and I think Trump knows exactly what he's doing. If anybody was trying to figure out how to end the war in Ukraine, this was it.
Hey, that's a good idea. You're smart.
Cut off the oil, it's over.
That's a great idea. And listen to this. If the Iranian regime falls, God willing, and I hope we and the Israelis are doing something to help them, I really do, the oil to China and Russia, but particularly, because Russia has much of its own, but particularly to China, is cut off. The oil in Venezuela to China is cut off. They are in a bad place. Bad place. And you are smart, particularly with respect to China and Taiwan. They're in a bad place, and we'll be in a great place. So let's hope this happens. Thank you for your call. Call again. Now, look, I've got great calls lined up here. I just can't take it. I've got like 30 seconds left. I want to thank you all for listening and for what you do out there. Look, we reach every corner of this country. And I am so blessed to have you out there, this audience, the smartest of audiences, having spent 2 weeks in the cesspool that they call the internet, just to put my toe in there. And you know what I got, Mr. Producer? Gangrene. All right, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and you, the American people, red-blooded Yanks. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.